Spencer by Pablo Larraín is the 2021 fableized biopic of Princess Diana. It takes place over several days at Sandringham on Christmas. In this episode of Costume and Character, we are unpacking Jacqueline Duren's costume design on the set of Spencer, and we're looking into how all of that beautiful costume work informs not only the character work, but also what we as an audience take away from the film. Obviously, the thing with Spencer is that costume design was always going to be a really big part of that because she is such a fashion icon. Diana was known for her fashion, and part of that was that she had a public image to maintain. And you see this kind of explored in the film when she has her conversation with Charles, in which she says there has to be two of you. There has to be kind of the public facing you, and then there's the private you. And that is something that's really explicitly illustrated in her costume choices, in the clothes that she chooses to wear, and then the clothes that she's told to wear. And then there's parts of the film where she attempts to kind of assert her own autonomy by purposefully choosing the quote-unquote wrong outfit. So you get this sense of her making decisions for herself. Within the confines of the outfits that have been chosen for her, she's still trying to put her stamp on them and make choices for herself, because so much of what the film explores is Diana's lack of choice. And I think another important thing to remember with Spencer is that even though, yes, it's about a real woman, obviously Diana was a real person, it is very much it says it in the beginning, it's a fable based on a true story. So there is a fictitious element to this. And when I went into Spencer, partly I think as an American and someone on the outside of the mythology of Diana and the royal family, I was able to look at it as a story about a woman in this scenario. And I think divorcing it from the legacy kind of helps, and I think a lot of people got hung up a little bit on how real it was. But again, when you look at the fashion, you can see very clearly which outfits were actually inspired by Diana's real wardrobe.
Yeah, it's really important to get the wardrobe right in this one. As it always is, but obviously, like you said, in this case, her clothes defined her so specifically.
So Diana has all of these outfits very organized and laid out based on the events she's doing, the dinners she has, what day it is. And it becomes obvious that she's trying to assert her own autonomy when she wears Boxing Day lunch to Christmas Day church. Those are two very different outfits, and she opts to wear the one that she wants to, rather than the one that has been chosen for her. And what I think is really interesting about that scene, the audience is clued into the fact that she's made this swap when the kind of servants and staff are watching it on TV. And her sort of dresser person says to Alistair, who's the kind of right-hand man, played by Timothy Spall, when she says, they're gonna think I made a mistake. And he says, no, they won't, they'll know who made the mistake. So already, it's become evident to everybody involved that she actively made this choice. And yes, they use the word mistake, but that's a euphemism for the fact that Diana is actively pushing out against the boundaries that are being set up for her. And what's super interesting is the way that Kristen Stewart herself described how those boundaries are impacted, and it is through clothes. She refers to those clothes as bondage.
When she's younger and she's wearing stuff that, there are times where I look at pictures of her and she looks dressed like a doll. And there's, vulnerability in that, and it's kind of awkward, but she's jutting out of them. Like, little kids of like, someone put this sweater on me, and she's sort of sticking out of it. She's just this undeniable person, even when she's not killing it. And then when she's wearing something that she clearly likes and is beautiful, you can tell, like, if she's feeling herself like big. And yeah, the clothes in this movie feel like bondage, very sort of, they don't liberate her, they weigh her down.
The outfit that we see her wear on Christmas Day at church is a kind of black dress with a bright red jacket over it, a black hat, and the black veil, which is based on a jacket that Diana did wear. And what's so interesting about the fact that she's picked this very bold jacket and black dress, which is one, visually that's very striking, two, wearing red to church is, red is a color associated with not the most prim and proper of women. And you've also got her in a black veil. All of that is very like morbid, and then you've got the kind of sensuality of the red, which are the two sort of opposite ends of the spectrum, furthest away from what they could possibly want, you would assume, for her to look like when not only is she going to church, but they know that she's going to be photographed. And this goes back to the sort of public persona idea, that she has to dress a certain way because she's not dressing for herself. She's dressing for what she's meant to represent within the royal family. In a sort of pivotal moment in the film, Diana wears, and it's the dress that you see on the poster, that very kind of beautiful first poster that was released where she's hunched over, and she's in this beautiful white dress with the gold kind of embroidery on it, which again is based on a dress that Diana did wear, or similar to. What's so interesting about that dress is she is both kind of very exposed because it is a strapless dress, and right before she has the Christmas dinner in this dress, and it's left vague for the audience, but she does dig the scissors into her arm, and you see her bleed. And again, we're playing with color. So you've got the red of the blood and the white of the dress, which is this kind of very pure, virginal image. The cut never reappears when she's in the dinner scene, so you're left to wonder whether she did actually do that or if it was sort of something in her head that she maybe was thinking about doing. But the dress itself obviously is very beautiful, but it's also got a circumference to it. And what that ends up doing is it keeps everybody away. So not only is it imprisoning her in the sense that she's in this physical item of clothing that she doesn't want to be wearing, but it's also keeping everyone else out at this kind of arm's length simply because of the volume of the dress. And I think it's really interesting how you look at how the royal family within the confines of the film pull the people away from her that are there to be intimate and close. And so this is another kind of visual signifier of her distance from everybody else. And that physical separation is isolating. Another key moment where costume is used to kind of nudge something to the audience is when at the beginning of the film she's coming late to Sandringham and she stops and she sees the scarecrow with a jacket and she says, "I'm sure that's Papa's," and she runs across the field and she pulls the jacket off the scarecrow and she asks to have it mended. And it's interesting that this kind of really important physical item is on a scarecrow, and I think the imagery and the symbolism with that is so potent and so obvious, and yet everyone around her is kind of flabbergasted by the fact that she would be so attached to this item. And again, that puts this kind of wedge between what her lived experience is as a character and the rest of the characters in the film, because her values align more closely with this relic. And then it's interesting when you look at that because it is a relic of the past. And she then later on says, for the royals, the past and the present are the same thing. So while that is a kind of very damning thing for her to say, she herself is living in the past. And you see this also later when she goes back to her old house and she's wearing the white dress, but she's pulled a man's jacket over it. And again, you're layering all these different, not only textures and visual signifiers of gender and the kind of casual jacket with this like high fashion dress, but you have all these things kind of converging at once on Diana. So she's in her old house in this old jacket and the white dress and the pearls that symbolize so much, and she's moving through past and present at the same time. And then also Anne Boleyn is there. So you have all of these layers of history that come through not only with the physical characters in the room, but everything that they're wearing. And all of those symbols are so kind of potent, not only for the audience, but for her as a character in that moment. And I think that's what is most interesting, is that the costume works not just for the audience, but for the character of Diana herself. They mean something to her. And that's the most interesting thing that the costume could do. In the scene with Sally Hawkins, who is her friend, her only kind of ally in this entire days of escapades at Sandringham, Sally Hawkins' character, Maggie, she says to her, I don't want to wear this dress, it doesn't fit. And Maggie says, well, didn't you try it on? She says, no, it doesn't fit with my mood. And I think that's such an interesting concept because all of us in our day-to-day lives, most of us anyway, dress with our moods. And in that vein, an outfit you've put on one day, you can put the exact same outfit on another day and it feels completely different and you feel completely different in it. So as a character, she's already making that link between her internal world and what she presents to the outside world, and saying that those two things should be synonymous, they should reflect each other. And then on the other side of it, you have Charles saying, no, there have to be two of you. And so Diana is saying, I don't want there to be two of me. I want there to be one, and I want it to be harmonious. And that disconnect and the discord internally becomes external with her clothes.
The thing is, Diana, there has to be two of you. There's two of me, there's two of Father, two of everyone. There's the real one and the one they take pictures of. But you know, you have to be able to make your body do things you hate.
That you hate?
See these hints of her trying to assert herself and that internal self to the outside world. The pearls that kind of come up again and again in the film obviously work as a metaphor on so many different levels. And the first and kind of obviously very icky one is that not only did Charles give Diana the necklace in the film as a gift, but in the film he also gives the same exact necklace to Camilla. So that, I mean, that's like a bigger faux pas than Alan Rickman giving Emma Thompson a CD, right? Like that is a huge no-no, right? Keep your mistress gift and your wife gift separate. Sorry, can you hear the clapping?
Yeah, I can't on the camera.
I hope we did, because it comes across like they love the joke. Yeah, it just landed.
So obviously you've got that issue, but then also you have the fact that it's a physical thing around her neck, right? And I think obviously necklaces are designed to show off your, whatever this is called, décolletage, this area of your body, but they also symbolize restraint, right? And it's the same thing with a necktie. They operate in this very similar kind of noose-like visual. And the pearls are so big and so present, especially when she wears them later on with the white dress, and they're just there across her torso where she doesn't have any straps or anything on. So you've got this very kind of obvious symbolism. And then there's that very kind of potent scene where she eats them at the dinner table. And again, I feel like a lot of people took umbrage with the fact that there was themes around eating disorders and stuff like that. And within the context of the film, I thought it worked exceptionally well because you're playing again with this idea of the internal and the external. So she's taking this bondage, to use Kristen Stewart's apt kind of phrasing of what these clothes and accessories are, and she's eating them. She's literally ingesting them and she's making them part of her. And then later on, she's throwing them up. And so it's such a strong and sickening kind of illustration of the struggle that she's dealing with. And later on, when she wears the pearls and she finally does actually pull them off and they tumble down the stairs, that's her moment of freedom. She's breaking free of that bondage, and then the next thing is her leaving. And obviously, within the confines of real life, we know what happens later, but within the context of the film, which is very much a fictional, fable-like story about bondage and womanhood, that is such a moment of emancipation. And I think using the pearls to symbolize that is a very powerful choice, because they're also very expensive, right? All of this stuff is expensive, but those are so obviously opulent that they play on another level, and she's discarding them and she's breaking free, and that is her moment of emancipation, really. If you enjoyed this video, please let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of these deep dives. Thank you so much for watching.